pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Mayor Williams. Present. Commissioner Basil. Here. Commissioner Edelman.
Here.
Commissioner Holloway.
Here.
Commissioner Rizzola.
Here.
Commissioner Bio.
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas. Here. Quorum is present. Approval of agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'd like to pass it.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right, but I'd like to move to amend it. I don't know whether you withdraw it or right.
I can withdraw it.
My motion is to amend language under item 7, new business, to read as follows. Rules A. Consideration by the city commission to take action regarding marijuana establishments and facilities in the city of Scranton as to both medical and recreational marijuana. It seems to me that the agenda says we are only to look at opting out. I don't know whether we want to opt out or opt in, whether we want to, whether we're doing it for medical and, we're talking about medical and recreational, or to go, see, when we're talking about that, we're talking about both medical and recreational. Not opting in or opting out, all, so all four. We did, each issue, 2 issues on each one. Rather than saying, which limit ourselves to opt out. That's my motion. There are some rules, there are now rules out for medical and not recreational. We have to, you can opt out, out, can opt out, either both. And so when we talk about it, we have all the possibilities on each end, so opt out both, opt in both, opt out one, opt in, we just limit ourselves to opting out.
Is this item, this particular ordinance is for recreational that's being brought before us tonight, not recreational and medical?
It doesn't say it, it doesn't say it.
I believe the ordinance itself though, is that right, Justin?
Yes, yes, it was, it's for recreational marijuana establishments and facilities in the city of Stanton. So I guess, is that what you were requesting, made the request for this to be on? Is it
That's
clear
right.
enough, or is it, do you want to add recreational marijuana?
Well, the establishments, it probably doesn't matter if it's recreational or medical. The establishments are basically the same. You have your provisioners, the growers, and so on. So I think that if we opt out of one, we automatically opt out of the other. I don't see where you can make the distinction of the.
Well, if I don't want to opt out, we want to opt in, we can't opt in with most of the way it's written. If we decide to opt in, we can, because we're not opting out.
Yeah, it's my understanding that what our city attorney indicates is that if we opt in now, we can't change our minds later if we don't want it, but if we opt out now, we can change our minds later if we want it. And I think the prudent, in my opinion, the prudent thing for us would be to opt out of it at this time.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying, if we're having a discussion about it, we have to discuss everything. Why we break it down into small segments, so we can opt out or opt in on both recreational or medical. And if we're going to be talking about it, as an overall plan, I think we ought to consider everything at once, and then we may opt out of both of them.
Well, we can only regulate the businesses within the city limits.
Yep.
We can't And the businesses, whether it's recreational or medical, would be pretty much the same business, except one is for recreational use and one is only for medical marijuana. But the businesses would be the same. But right now, we're talking about the,
Well, this specific ordinance is for recreational.
Right.
So really, it's probably the agenda item that needs to be rewritten to saying recreational marijuana establishments. And then we do need to visit the medical side, but we also don't have a sample ordinance in front of us to vote on something like that tonight.
Well, all this is saying we're going to consider it. I don't think, I think we should, if we're going to consider marijuana issue, we have to consider the whole program, everything, all at once. I think we should do part of it, and do a lot of things overlap, and we're better off looking at the whole thing. We got a whole program here of marijuana in the city, both two kinds, and we can either opt in or opt out. I think if we're going to consider marijuana, we got to consider the whole bundle. And then if we decide we're going to do something, then we can ask the ordinance to do what we think we want to do.
So what's before you tonight is speaking establishments and facilities for the recreational purposes of being a grower, distributor, a retailer, etc. So it's not overlapping or changing anything that you already have or the position for medical.
This does not say recreation. The agenda does not say recreation. So I'm saying if we're going to talk about both of them, let's talk about both of them. If we're going to talk about recreation, we should say recreational, but what do we want to opt in? And we can't opt in because it says we're not going to opt out. We're limited here to looking at something and opt out. We may not want to opt out. So we want to, I think we should just put out in the agenda, we're going to look at the opportunity to, I think we do the whole thing at once. We don't should have two discussions on it. We should talk about marijuana in the city, whether we want it, and we should have both alternatives before us, recreational and medical, and both applicants opt in or opt out for each one of those. So when we get done, when we talk about the whole thing, we're not talking about bits and pieces. If we decide to opt in, we can't do that with this new business. All we do is opt out. So we're getting half the discussion there.
But I think it's defined in the ordinance that's included too, as to what establishment means and facility
Well,
means as well.
with what you're saying right now, Buster, the definitions, marijuana facility means that term as defined in the MMFLA, which is the Medical Marijuana Facilities Licensing Act of 2016. And then marijuana establishment is the term as defined in the MRTMA, which is the new 2018 one. So with that being said, I think that this ordinance just opts out to everything for the time being, according to the definitions there.
So what this is informing you to do is, you haven't made a decision. So if you continue on or prolong to making a decision on either one, medical or recreational, then you're leaving yourself open to business of some sort of establishment to exist within the city of Stanton. It's sort of like, I'm saying, temporary or a temporary structure in zoning. We don't have anything that would preclude someone from setting up a temporary structure of any sort. So I can't tell them, no, you can't do it. You know, and then that's the same way the state is looking at this, or our attorney is looking at this, is you don't have anything that prohibits someone from setting up any type of establishment or recreation or becoming a grower, and the state says, hey, this business meets all the requirements that we're looking for, they can issue them a license. They're gonna contact the city and say, do you have anything that would prohibit someone from setting up a micro business or something that along the lines of marijuana? And my reply right now would be, no, we don't. So if that person meets all the requirements, the state will issue them a license, and then you'll have maybe public outcry and say, what happened? Why is this here? Why is this on Main Street? Why does this exist? But we don't have anything that would prohibit them.
Our zoning orders, don't they have a specific paragraph in the zoning orders that allows it, so they can't do it, but that's in the ordinance, is that correct?
No.
You bring up a point about medical versus recreational. Medical marijuana, the state will not issue a permit for any of the medical use permitted businesses without a permit from the city. So the control is inherited to the city from the state having that obligation that they require a permit. For the recreational, it's not that way. If they come in and they open up a business before we regulate it in some way, if we want to, then we're too late.
And part of that is probably because the state has not set their regulations yet. It could be, because we don't know everything.
Right, so before, as the attorney explained, and information of this year, is that you didn't have to do anything as a municipality. You didn't have to choose whether you wanted to opt in or opt out. You could just disregard any applications or people who request to open a provisioning center. Because you know, so that's the difference here, is that you kind of forced into making a decision whether you're going to opt in to allow or opt out to disallow these establishments. So for the time being, you can always come back and you can repeal this ordinance at a later date once you know the rules from the state and you have more time to digest the information and what's happening around in other communities. And so, you know, like I said, that's why this is on the agenda tonight. That's the reason why it's written the way it is. You can change the wording however you feel comfortable. This model ordinance that's included is something that our city attorney passed along to us, and actually recent conversations and what are you guys going to do about this? You know, it's his opinion is that we should make a move on it. That's why it's on tonight's agenda and brought before you. So I hope that explains a little bit more.
I understand what you think. I just want to talk about everything, not just opting out of recreational.
And I would like to agree with Chuck on that there is right now, as it's written, we only talking, are we opting out or not? There's no room for talking about possible opt-in. So we're talking specific, very specific discussion about just this ordinance. And perhaps that's not the step that should go first, because we didn't get a chance to talk about pros and cons. We're just saying, hey, let's consider the con, and everybody agrees.
Well, I think that we have talked somewhat about it, and it's my understanding that most of the people that I talked with has wanted to know what the rules are before we jump in and say that we'll opt in. Without that, I think that opting out will give us some time to make a wiser decision than just opting in forever, because we can't opt back out. If we opt out, we can opt in at a later time. It just makes more sense to me.
I had the webinar too, I mean,
We need to, I was gonna say, before we get into a further discussion, we need to decide if we're gonna approve the agenda, amend the agenda, and then have the actual discussion during the new business portion. So there was a motion on the table from Chuck to amend the agenda with the discussion of both. recreational and medical, and whether to opt out or in.
And that will second that amendment to include both sides
Okay.
in the discussion.
All in favor?
Well, we've got, what do you second
Oh.
it?
Yes, Glad just said it. Yes, yep.
Pardon? I'm in favor.
All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Nay.
Any opposed?
Nay.
So the agenda's been approved with the amendment, 4-2. Any public comments or questions at this time? All right, and on to the standing items. Approval of commission meeting minutes for January 8th, 2019.
Brian Bradington's name is spelled wrong under public comment at the end of the meeting.
Is that the only? I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes with the correction of Brian Brazington's last name.
So moved.
Second.
Why am I forgetting the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And now to the approval of bills for the month of January 2019 in the amount of $66,550.70.
I'm in favor.
I'll second.
I have a question. With our auditor on there, it's like spread out through the many different funds. What does it cost altogether for our audit each year? Through them?
$70,000.
And is that something that's about the same across the board with any company, or?
Well, I looked into that at this time, the commission at the time when they signed up for, we signed up to go with this particular company, there was an option for an additional, it was 2 years initially, then an option for 3 additional years. So we're kind of stuck with them for another year to 2 years at this point. So, yeah, I would like to look into that in the future, is going out to bid and seeing what our options are and if that's comparable across the board. But yeah, for the time being, it's $7,300 annually.
Does that include the fee for them making adjustments? Year-end adjustments? Wasn't that extra? Didn't-
No, no, that's all included at this point in time.
The only thing that they said wasn't really included is when they come and present to us in the future. Correct?
Yes, presentations, and also if we want or need them to do any additional reporting to the state of Michigan. So this year we managed to get it done without incurring additional cost, and Ken was gracious enough to make the trip up here to Stanton, which I appreciate him for doing
Yep.
that.
Definitely. All right, so we need to still vote on the approval of bills. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And on to monthly reports. Chief Patino, do you have anything to add?
Pardon me?
Do you have anything to add?
Just that all, I think we hope to have a year-end report for everybody.
Okay.
I would want to I'd like to ask if we could have the police report with our packet that comes on Friday. I think that would be beneficial for us to look at it, rather than have it show up here at the meeting time and quick gander. I think it would give us some time to look it over in more depth.
Yeah, typically we would have that available. There was an issue with emails and communication on our end, so we'll definitely make sure that that was,
I had it done last Thursday.
yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Jamie, do you have anything to add to Public Works?
Oh, thank you.
Buster? For your city manager, is there anything you want to add?
Only that, we, staying busy, and I gave it a report at the beginning of the month. A lot has transpired in terms of, attending the Blacktown Economic Alliance, meeting, talking more about economic development opportunity zones. You may have seen the Daily News covered, opportunity zones, so it was a great presentation that was given. Stanton is within those, or considered an opportunity zone, so working with the right place, we hope to attract investors to come to the city of Stanton. We have a lot of redevelopment opportunity sites that are on Main Street and throughout the community. Also, I attended the workshop in Mount Pleasant for Michigan Natural Resource Trust Fund grant opportunities, and that's what we're going to be seeking out for the Veterans Memorial Park project. Let's put in another application for our phase 2. I guess we'll have more of an update here shortly on that note. Also, I attended an Act 51 workshop that was held in Lansing, so we're prepared to receive additional road funding through the state of Michigan, which was very nice. I think we can definitely use it for future projects. So we got some more ideas on how we can use those funds. If we have a project coming up, currently we're doing a 50-50 split on those funds. We can allocate more to local streets, to a local street fund. If we have a project that we're looking at, so maybe it's pavement markings or something to that effect. Other than that, we had a lunch provided today by Mayor Williams. Very good for the City Hall and the team and the morale. Very delicious. So Kevin had a couple bowls, say, hey, Kevin, slow down a little bit. But yeah, it was a very good, and we're working really hard here at the city. We resolved a few other issues. I think there was discussion about the email, so we got that straightened out. So all of you will be upgraded to a G Suite account for email services. So more to come with that over the next week as we get those subscriptions updated. And thank you to Public Works, they're doing a great job with snow removal. They were in over the weekend last week and probably hard at it overnight and early tomorrow morning. So all in all, things are progressing. We're moving to the budget process. So we'll really get heavy in that discussion throughout the month of February. And also send out an email tonight. Commissioner Edelman was gracious enough to allow us to use his survey monkey access for the goals. So if you all have time, please do so as soon as possible to take the survey and submit what your priorities are, and then that top 5 is what we're going to shoot include maybe in the newsletter if we get the responses backing up timely matter and you all approve those priorities, I guess, at the next meeting. So all in all, things are progressing. The SWAT grant is moving well at a great pace. I met with Kevin Coster today, Brian Newhall, about the SWAT grant. So again, those discussions about paying for projects or priority projects will be heating up here in the next couple of weeks, up to a month. So all in all, things are moving along.
Thank you. All right, and on to new business. To consider the city commission, do you want me to read it away? Consideration by the city commission to take action regarding marijuana establishments and facilities in the city of Stanton as to both medical and recreational marijuana.
I'd like to make a motion that we consider only the recreational marijuana at this time.
I guess I'm confused about whether this ordinance, like I said, it refers to facilities which are coming from the medical act anyway. So I feel like this ordinance is really just a temporary way to make our own decision for the moment instead of letting the state decide for us. And then we can figure out what we want to do. So I don't see that this particular ordinance is really necessarily just about recreational.
Is there a, oh,
I'll just add some more context to it, is that this emergency ordinance, passing this emergency ordinance, what you're doing is protecting yourselves from something you may not want, or in terms of the different licenses that, or establishments that can exist within the city of Stanton. Again, the medical is something that you, in the past, have not had to really take up or make a decision to opt out or opt in. It is what it is. But this one, you do have to make it, or you should make a decision before it's too late, because there's a timing aspect that you included in it. So I do just want to add that bit of information for you all. And I don't know, as we attended webinars and we've slides and information has been shared over and over, explaining the ordinances, and has left you all with a lot of questions and about the rules and what's going to be coming from the state. And it's prudent, and like I said, the attorney is saying that if you do this, you can always go back and refill it once you have a better idea of what you would like to allow, if it's anything, any type of establishment within the city. And also looked at zoning regulations that you may want to adopt in the future. So again, it's something that helps protect you all, the city, from an establishment setting up shop here that later you might say, oh, what were we thinking, or we didn't have enough time. So I do just want to add that little bit of tidbit of information. And 52% of the voters said they did not want recreational marijuana passed. So
and we do still need a second on Ray's motion before we can really discuss, correct? I mean, yeah.
And that was just to discuss recreational only, or opt out of recreation? Is that what you're?
To have the discussion whether to opt out of the recreational marijuana for the purposes of what our city attorney is advising that we should consider.
I guess I'd like to possibly entertain an amendment to today's motion. I would like the attorney, the MML, investor whom we hired and trust his advice. I would prefer a motion that allows us to consider this ordinance that's on the table tonight with the caveat that we have a work session at some point in the near future to discuss our vision in terms of both sides, the medical piece and the recreational piece. I don't think that that's something that we should sit here for who knows how long tonight and hash out. But this ordinance tonight on the table is the recommendation of, several officials. We would be ignorant to not listen. So I guess I would ask that you amend the motion to the original.
I just don't know if we can tie in a work session, because the work session would be under the understanding that we're probably gonna opt out, and we haven't voted on it yet.
And
That's-
then
that's
maybe
my-
amend to just back to what was already on the table for tonight, this particular ordinance.
That's fine.
And then make another motion after that we have a work session at a good time and place to discuss all of this further and hash it out.
So that's my motion, is for us to consider the proposal that's before us tonight as far as the opting out of the recreational marijuana.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Fine?
Any opposed? Okay, so now we're discussing and there's no round to be.
Unless you want to do a roll call.
So I'll make a motion that we accept ordinance to prohibit marijuana establishments and facilities in the city of Stanton, as written by the attorney.
Second.
Let's do a roll call vote.
Commissioner Basil?
Aye.
Commissioner Edelman?
Can I abstain? From the vote? Or do I have to?
I think you have to, he can abstain?
No,
I was gonna say, I think you have to make a decision one way or the other.
Conflict of interest.
I'll say nay.
Holloway?
Yes?
Mazzola?
Yes.
Meyer? Thomas?
Yes.
4 yes, 2 no's.
Right, so at this time, we are opting out of recreational marijuana establishments and facilities in the city of Stanton. On to B, consideration by the city commission to approve a bicycle path
Laura,
and, oh, I'm sorry.
before we go on, can I make that motion about having a work session to talk deeper about?
Yeah, my question is do we want to wait to have that work session until the regulations are established
Well, I think we can talk about medical marijuana
first? Okay.
at least, because that is established, and there are some locations where they're opting into that, pieces of that, because we know what that looks like, and we've really never sat down and talked about it. So, and then we can talk about what we want to do with the medical piece, and then go on to what our vision is pending the regulations. I mean,
So you want to state your motion again for Lori, just so we have it?
do we need a time to set right now, or do we figure that out,
We
or
need
just
to watch
have
for a work session, that's just nothing but, hey Buster, we want to have a work session. I think we had one, just to clarify, we had one, a work session where we intended to talk about this, and that happened. But I don't think you need a motion. If you just want to say, I think we're ready, we can do the posting and have a work session.
Or an intent to have a work session in the near future.
Yeah. Can we intend to have a work session in the near future?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll bring the cookies. They won't have any, they won't have any of that stuff in there. Don't quote me, Brandon.
So were you making that a motion, Jane, or you're just making a comment?
Statement that you'd like the intention
Yeah.
for a work session on medical.
Okay.
And now on to the consideration by City Commission to approve a bicycle path and walkway easement made between Crooks Farms Inc. of Stanton, Michigan and the City of Stanton for the amount of $1 for the Veterans Memorial Park project. Can I give a little synopsis of why we need this?
Yeah.
Okay, so by doing this, we are bypassing the marshland that would require, how much was the bridge? 500,000?
No.
No.
Some kind of
160.
trouble under there.
No, I mean, I just, because the DEQ was gonna regulate us to do that bridge and, so by entering into this contract with Crooks's, it allows us to go around the marsh and eliminate quite a cost for the park. And not to say that if we thought that that was you know, that a bridge, something like that could add value to the park as far as beauty and things like that. You know, it doesn't mean that later on down the road we couldn't do that, but for right now, this would be an agreement to keep the park.
As we go along and before making your motion, I see it over there. I would like for the park committee to consider maybe naming this something like Crooks Connection or something to the connection to the bicycle trail, because he's doing us a big favor. This is a wonderful thing.
And I know we've already talked about that too.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I think the typographical in my paragraph 2 talks about maintenance, it says township maintenance to be city.
In the contract.
7 line down, it says, however, motorized vehicles will be treated such as township maintenance, it should be city.
Okay.
I was gonna make a motion. So, I'll make a motion to approve bicycle path and walkway easement with the amendment, with the change.
I'll support that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And now on to the consideration by the City Commission to adopt the new Stanton Personnel Manual.
Esther, I assume you're happy with that?
Well, it was something that was brought to me, brought to my attention when I initially started here was, hey, take a look at it, you know, there's some questions and things that may need to be improved, and I was taking some time to really thoroughly look at what we already have on the books, and, you know, working with the staff, the department heads to take a look, and get their feedback and suggestions. I did have one from Officer Bryce that said, hey, make Christmas Eve a full day instead of a half a day. So if you all would like to do that, please do so, or, you know, I think everyone would enjoy that full day off. But, yeah, if you notice anything, if you see anything, we can, this is my first blush at doing a personnel manual. I think it's prudent to take a look at this every other year or every year to see if there's any changes or that need to be made. One of the big ones was maternity leave, and, you know, me being soon to be a father again, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense, but being able to take some time off But, yeah, this has circulated quite a bit. We're talking today at a department head meeting that we may have to take another look at this in the near future, like I said, once every year or every 2 years, and seeing if anything needs to be changed. But, yeah, you all, go ahead.
I think as a legislative body, we should be telling you, to do this or not do this. I mean, I think we can say, we need a personnel policy. I have no idea how you are in your office. I think if we say, do a personnel policy, you can do it and bring it back. I don't intend to tell you how to do it about it. And I don't think, we don't need to micromanage what you're doing. I think we need a policy. I think you work out what you want and bring it back, and Frank, I'll approve whatever you bring back. But I think you're managing, you get stuck with what's there, so.
Well, thank you. Raises for everyone.
The only thing would be is the vacation, or the holiday days would mean that the office is closed, so that would be something we'd really, if we were gonna do all-day Christmas Eve.
And it stays in line with our charter.
This, yes. So any changes, would come from me and working with the department heads on, hey, what do you guys think about this, adding this or changing this? And one of the things that we learned the most was about COBRA coverage, is that because we're under 25 full-time employees, that we're not obligated to offer COBRA, but we would help any employee, with finding their way or navigating the market for health insurance. So,
Wonderful document.
well, thank you.
It is.
Commissioner Basil helped me out with a couple of things he pointed out, so I appreciate making those corrections, and even Lori helped me out. Said, hey, nowhere in here does it say leave for grandchildren.
It's like, there's a few things that are missing, I think.
Yeah, I agree, that's pretty harsh, that you don't have any time off with your grandchildren.
I read about 4 pages and thought I'd be micromanaging if I changed anything, so I just quit.
It's all good there about you.
Great. So entertain a motion?
Last thing on the page.
Motion to approve the personnel policy for the city of Stanton.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Now on to a Veteran Park Committee update. You want to start? Would you cover what you want to?
Sure, the Veteran Park Committee met, was that last week?
Yeah, I think it was last Thursday.
Yeah, Friday, days are.
Yeah, we'll all join in together.
So we met and talked more about the park and talked about the project as a whole. And as I mentioned earlier, the timing was perfect with the Michigan Natural Resource Trust Fund grant opportunity. Again, getting the FaceTime with the staff there, whom I've met before with my prior employer. So saying, hey, what about this project? Is this still something that you all would be interested in possibly funding? And the reception was, yes, absolutely, we're still interested. So as we met with the park committee, we talked about getting a complete project, with a concept layout with the easement, putting that all together, getting a full picture, and then splitting that up into 2 phases at this time, or 3, depending on how the numbers shake out, the final estimate. The phase 1, we're looking at doing the ball fields and the parking lot to begin. So a lot of the grading, cutting down trees to make the area a lot easier to, lay a ball field on top of, and also the connecting the path through volunteer labor. So we felt like that was a great opportunity for volunteers to go in and create a pathway that will connect the Fred Meyer Trail to the ball field. Right now, it's estimated about $200,000 for the phase 1 part of the project, and then the second phase will be a lot more. I guess phase 1 would just at least show that we're taking action and we're getting some things taken care of. Phase 2 would be more of the amenities and something that we can combine to a grant application that would be very competitive. So that will come before you over the next month or so, is getting that grant application done and submitted by the April 1st deadline. They'll, through the grant application, they'll come back around in August and let you know if you need to make some more improvements or ways to score better with the points, their point system, and make any additional revisions. And then they take all of August, and I believe September, to review the applications, and they'll make a decision, and we'll be noticing, and they'll let us know by December 2019 whether or not we're a project that's going to get funded. The maximum amount of the grant is $300,000, so altogether, I met with Kevin today, eyeing you off to make sure that we're on the same page in terms of what we're trying to accomplish this year, in terms of the project, and also planning for phase 2 for the grant application. So altogether, it's coming in a real solid project. Kevin and I agreed that it's taking some time to really understand who's doing what. We talked about working with Rushes to do some of the tree removal. And what they're proposing is just cover their expenses, so like fuel, maybe some chains for chainsaws, and they'll take care of the rest. So that was a big help. And like you voted tonight on the easement, Mr. Crooks, who is attorney, was very eager and supportive of the project, and said, hey, it looks good, just have your attorney do the review of the easement, and if you all agree, then I'll have my client, Mr. Crooks, provide signature. So I think I touched base on everything. It's like I said, it's taken different shapes.
They've received a map of the new layout, right?
But
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, they have all that information.
That was a big turnaround for Warren Brooks, because he was very adamant opposed this trail when it first started. He just was doing what he could and not letting it happen. Now he's contributing to it.
I think they approached him in the wrong way. I think that was, they must have ruffled his feathers a little bit.
Oh, originally, not now.
Yeah. I have a question about the grant, and you may or may not know. Since we're putting in a sizable amount of money in phase 1, is that money, or a portion of that money, can that be used as matching funds for the grant?
Unfortunately, it cannot, because it's already work that's underway. It's not during that grant period. So that's what they look at is, you've already spent that's money spent. It wasn't during the grant period where you had a grant agreement in place. So the second phase, whatever money that we spend and any volunteer labor or
The
equipment and all that.
volunteering part works off.
Yes, but we have to be it has to be during that grant period, that you have a grant agreement in place, and they give you 2 years to complete the project. So anything that you do beforehand, you get a pat on the back and say, yeah, great job, but it will not count towards your match.
Do we have a listing broken down, kind of like this one, of what possibly might be in phase 2 that we're trying to get the grant to cover?
That's what Brian Newhoff is going to get. Talking to Kevin today, is we're shooting for that first meeting in February to have that complete picture and breakdown of phase 1, phase 2. This is how much it's going to cost us. So,
There might be some things that we might want to tweak if we're going to pay for, maybe pay for it in phase 2, that way it counts as matching.
which my discussion today was very intentional about that, is phase 2, the grant project, make sure you include things that would be bonuses or would point out that this is a solid project. So that may be the hard surface for a handicap parking, which, attending the workshop last week, that was a prime example of doing the mix between a gravel and then a hard surface, concrete surface or pad for handicap accessibility. So, and also they look at the pathway to the ball fields. They're going to look at the connection to the trail. They're going to look at the garbage cans that you provide for recycle bins. So those types of things that would score really big for a grant project. So this phase one would probably be just a skeleton of getting things going. And also we talked about funding. So we think that starting phase one would draw more interest and support our outreach for funding and donations and so forth. So showing some action and seeing some trees get cut down could pay dividends in the future.
I have a question too about the line item for landscaping for about $5,000. What all are they figuring into that? Is that like a tree line in between the fields? Is it like wood chips, flowers, what are we?
I wouldn't take that to heart, that estimate. I just provided it just for some context on, the rough estimate was I believe it's $87-something thousand there. So I just included just for you all to know, I know that it's gonna probably add additional $20,000 or so because of the construction engineering. So I can give more detail from Brian Newhoff as to what that's going on, the landscape and what's included in that. Is it tree planting or is it, I don't know, whatever else, it could be flowers. So like I said, I explained to Kevin is that let's shoot for the first meeting in February. They needed some time to not only put the conceptual layout into their CAD design, and Matt was thinking, you know, what all that would entail, what landscaping. So he sketched that out on what looked like onion paper, and did a really good job at the meeting in terms of presentation and hearing the feedback from everyone around the table. And I think he's going to add some or spruce it up a bit more, and we'll be able to tell us exactly what's included in that landscaping and the types of trees if there's tree plantings.
Any other questions on that? No? Any public comments? Commission comments? All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. What?
Stacy,
Oh, should we do an update on that? Well, we
no. Well, I'll just share that the newsletter is being